A while back, I was asked by a friend of mine to go to Vita. Personally, I declined the invitation. That pretty much got me to reflect on my spiritual life. And around the same week as well, I asked Billy and Nikki if I could lead a sermon some time down the road, and so here I am. I do want to give a disclaimer first. I will be sharing about a sort of my life story since middle school, so there will be people that I will mention throughout in my testimony that probably you know or you have heard of, so or probably in the room right now. So I made them anonymous, but for sake of secrecy, and I know they'll probably be watching it as well. I don't want any disclosure about it because I want to keep their name secret, and I also don't want to embarrass them or anything. Are you good about that? Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. So my spiritual life started around when I was a kid. For me, spiritual life started when I was born because from an early childhood, I always believed that God existed. I was born into a Christian family, and my dad was a pastor, so I was exposed to all Christianity and as well as attending his church. On one hand, it's great to have godly parents who love you, want you to follow God, because as a Christian parent, you want your son to follow the same path as they did and rejoice in heaven with them together. Attending my dad's church as well as ICS as a school allowed me to learn a lot about the Bible. However, there was a slight drawback because at times it sometimes feels like a chore, and sometimes it comes off as if your parents are forcing the ideology of Christianity on you. There are many times when I wanted to do things, but my parents wouldn't let me, as well as because in ICS, they taught you one side about Christianity, but my parents had a differing worldview, so conflict arose. Example was, most of the things that people and the kids in the pop culture grew up in was like, for instance, Pokemon or Harry Potter. My parents were against that in a way because they thought that it was like against Christianity, it was like heresy or something like that. That was when I was a childhood. Several years passed, and then when I confronted them about it, their ideology was they justified that they said these things to me because they didn't want me to be indulged in all these pop culture fandoms or ideas and become addicted to it. I understood what they were coming off as. I understood why they wanted to do so. They wanted to protect me and my siblings. But I'm still not pleased, even to this day, at the methods they used. And because I looked to them as a spiritual role model, and I began from that. I questioned a lot of things about God. So for a large majority of my life, this religious background, my parents and ICS fostered my belief in God. And so around 6th grade, I was pretty young, but I made in my mind that I knew that God existed because from ICS, he taught me of how accurate the Bible was. I learned a lot through the sermons of my dad and many of the classes, so it was proof that God existed, so I was okay with that. I was also very conflicted because I was very young at the time, but the problem was I didn't know why would I need to care, because I didn't know, okay, I believe in God, why would I want to be in a relationship with him, or what way would it benefit me? So that was for a large part of my life on my spiritual side, and if you were to listen to that on your own, you would think it was some sort of moral existential crisis, which I'm sure all of us have gone through. However, on the outside, my outward life was a very big training wreck. Since elementary to middle school, my whole life was very up and down. An example was in elementary school, I was very violent. I'm pretty sure some people, even in 4th grade and 5th grade, I got into a lot of fights. I was the one who would always take it to the next level. I got sent to the principal's office a lot of times, and that developed my violent tendencies an awful lot. I even gave some people some very serious wounds around elementary, middle school. Well, so people naturally have bad blood with me, and I got excluded a lot because they were scared of what I did as a kid, and so they didn't want to associate with me. On top of that, around 5th grade, I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. So naturally, you'd think, for anyone who knew about neural disorders and how it worked, you would be okay with it. But to even my classmates didn't know exactly what it was. All they saw was this kid who just had tics all around the hallway, so they actually hated on me that. And I still am to this day. There are people up in the seniors and all the way down who still look on me with disdain at the fact that, oh, he's got this random genetic disorder or something like that. So as a result, I became very quiet and scared. So I wasn't violent nowadays. I'm not the same person I was before. I wouldn't like punch someone or get into a large brawl, but I would harbor a lot of very revengeful thoughts in my mind, which was affecting my mental state a little bit. I was very angry at sometimes people. I would think a lot of bad things about them, and this was a lot of my childhood. I hated a lot of people. So around high school, things took a change. Around two unique things happened. So first of all, I made friends with one person for some reason, I don't know. But she was my main basis for advice. We talked an awful lot in classes, and because of her, I began to open up a lot of my middle school self. I told her what I was and the past I was going through. And because of this friendship, part of me thought and began to think about, well, maybe there are people in the school that actually don't hate me or actually think that I'm some sort of monster. So most of freshman year, this person was my main go-to for social advice. And because of her, I began to become on better terms with a bunch of other people. In fact, freshman year was around the time where I made a lot of forged back old ties with my friends. I forgave a lot of people, especially those I had hurt from a very young age. So in freshman year, I'll recap. That year began to resolve the hate I had in my heart, and I rekindled some of my old ties, even the boys in my grade who I often fought with an awful lot. However, the most important thing that happened to me so far was sophomore year, which was the last year, which was pretty recent to me. So basically, another new student came to the school, and I quickly made friends with her. It was a girl again, and I helped her in academics, and began to talk to her about her in my past, just like the person in freshman year. The difference here was that she was deeply concerned about what I did as a child, as she observed my behavior a lot, which was very irregular, and she would often talk to me about it. Fast forward to April and May of 2016, and I was hit with the news that both these classmates were leaving ICS. And needless to say, I was extremely sad, because these two people who were the ones who had held into advice and stability in my social life, and they turned my whole perspective on life and how people around me. So I didn't know what I could do now that they have left ICS, and I would probably never see them again. Towards June, when I was saying my goodbyes to both of them, I was discussing with a sophomore friend about what she was planning to do, when all of a sudden I just randomly blurted out, and I'll paraphrase this. So I basically asked her that since I've known her for a lot of time through our talking and our studies, I wanted her to be honest with me and ask her what did she think of me whenever she saw me in the hallways. I will admit that was by far the most stupid thing I've ever done, because you do not just ask a girl what they think of you, both by gender to gender and by social standards. Regardless, she gave me a piece of her mind. She said she really appreciated my friendliness ever since the first day of school. I helped her a lot in your studies, and I have a very interesting personality. And, quote, like I said countless times before, it should be shared with other people as well. Like we both know, your other friend is leaving as well, so it's time to start opening up to others. And it still worries me that so much pain and frustration is still being held on to. Don't let your past or misconception of yourself define you, and you do not have to puff yourself in front of others. That was the words that struck a chord with me. It was this moment where I sat back and realized what I was and should be doing. Long story short, in my heart, I made a promise that I was going to hold on to those words, and I would not be the same person that I was years ago. It was sort of lifelong word for me, because I wanted to open up and spread my newfound happiness with other people and help those around me, which even to this day I still want to do. So now it's junior year, and I'm doing fairly well. I've had a lot more people I can socialize with than as you guys, especially Axiom, as well as the other people in my grade. I've made friends with the lower classmen as well. So I was not seen in a much harsher light in the eyes of my classmates as before. This school year was driven by what I promised to those who left ICS. It was my own determination to help others, and that I would strive to be a better person. In fact, the most recent events happened in junior year as well. So it was around the end of the last semester, and I walked into my class in normal. There was a person over on the far side of the room who was crying her eyes out, and I just stood there and stared, because for me, it just popped into my mind that this student was a very old friend of mine in middle school, the only person I ever had in middle school during my whole chaotic phase. But then as I got older, I just forgot about her, and I just moved on with my own path. So seeing her right there in that room crying made me feel really guilty, and that promise I made came running back into my head. I ignored her for a large part of my life, and to me, deep down in my heart, that made me no better than the classmates who poked fun at me and never cared about my troubles. So, as a result, I decided to go up to her and comfort her, and I helped her out of the difficult situation, and because of that, now I've gained a new friend, and now we're a lot closer to each other. That was a good chunk of my life from middle school all the way to now, at least from a kid. Well, to be truthful, I did not need to go through all of that mess. I could have just accepted God from an early age and solidified my identity. But that would have saved me a lot of trouble in the long run, but that's not how God worked in my life. I believe all of these events was God bringing me down and showing me what life was without God. I'm a pastor's kid. That is by far a physical and social truth. But that did not mean I automatically had a close relationship with him. I have no clue to this day why those friends I met in high school would notice me and took the initiative to befriend me. So for me, I would assume that what God did was he moved those people to help me through my struggles and bring me closer to God. Like I said before, I did not see the value of being close to God despite knowing of his existence. So I'm sure people who are born in Christian families have the same trouble as well. The way parents can teach us about God sometimes comes away as forceful, and we just think that Christianity is a chore and that we never had a choice for ourselves. Because of what happened to me, God helps me see without the bond in him, I do a lot of terrible things, and he was the one who sent those people to speak that message to me. Like I'm sure you've all known, in the Bible it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope in the future." So, although I trust in the finished work of Jesus Christ because he died on the cross for my sins, I'm not exactly perfect. I know as a fact we are all technically saved because we are now become one with God if we accept that. The struggle that I now face is not based on did God save me, but rather I want to live out what I learned and aspire to be the character that Jesus was, based on my experiences and what my friends have given me. As a side effect, the same way my friends took notice of me and lifted me up from what I was, I also began to become more aware of the people around me. Fun thing, I did not know some friends in my school suffer from depression. I didn't know that I ignored a lot of people that had physical, mental, and spiritual needs, or even had victims of bullying. And biggest of all, around a couple of weeks back, I didn't know some people had struggled with anxiety, or even had a past that was struggling, had them struggling with life, probably even worse than I had. I think God, whenever I see those people, it makes me feel really angry, but not because I want to punch someone again. It's I would say that God gave me a sort of righteous anger because I want to help those people, regardless of who they are or how others see it, because of what I've been through. And I feel like that's kind of what my mission was, to help those who are going through the conditions that I am, because I know what they have been through. Like I mentioned before, I'm still continually growing in my relationship with God. So I do not expect all my actions to convey how much I've changed. And so, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, want to be a person that looks out for others. Not only do I have the promise in my heart I made a year back about being a better person, but I also want to inspire others and show how God uses us as disciples to care for everyone, regardless of who they are. And still, to this day, I really hope I can do that, even though it may not be hard. There are issues sometimes, even in school, where I see people and I want to do things and help them and change the way people think about these people who are being mistreated. But part of that would be me just talking to God regularly and saying, what do you want me to do? And I think that's how I managed to go on through life. Not only, the reason most of the time I'm struggling, and primary reason why I want to be a better person is because of the promise I made of the people that have changed me throughout the past 2 years, as well as my own promise to God that I would be a better person and not be the same chaotic kid that I was a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, King Nat. Can we pray for you? Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the love that is in your people. Lord, we thank you that you've just come to show King Nat, Lord, that just your existence, and also beyond that you desire to have a relationship with him. and you desire him to have the full life that you've come to bring us, Lord. And I pray that as he continue on his journey, Lord, pray that you will continue to guide him and use him with the experience that he has to also share the love that you gave us with others.